Hello, I'm Liz Lumley of Finextra, and today we're going to have a bit of a discussion looking at corporate actions and the rate of automation. So joining me today are Axel Dewitte of BNY Mellon, and next to him is Olivier Connan from Swift, and then next to me is Chris Schaefer from CityIQ, and rounding out our group is Pierre Colladon from Société Générale. So thank you very much, everyone. So before we start talking about corporate actions, I'm going to talk to Chris first, because CityIQ and Swift put together a bit of a report on corporate actions. And so I'm wondering if you can start us off by giving us a bit of an update on some of the findings from the report.
Okay. Well, I think the findings haven't changed too much. Mm-hmm. We're still finding that there has been expenditure on systems, primarily within the custodian groups. We've seen not much improvement in automation within the investment managers. Mm-hmm. There has been some improvement in the smaller to medium-sized enterprises because they have decided to now look at outsourcing. So we're seeing an improvement in outsourcing. So those are the primary three findings. The other new thing that's come along, which I'm sure we'll allude to later on, is the fact that there is a definite initiative going on to reduce the costs of corporate actions by the introduction of a golden copy being created by the issuers and available globally through the custodians to their clients. And that, once we get the golden copy, will improve, should improve both service quality and potentially lower costs.
It does seem like we've been talking about automating corporate actions for quite a bit of time, but now there seems to be a bit of an acceleration right at the moment. Do you agree?
Yes, I'd agree. I believe part of that is because regulation has made people think a bit about what they had to be doing. I believe that we've got T2S, which itself has made people realise that although it's a settlement solution, still requires the provision of a system solution for the corporations. And I suppose the final point I'd add is I think we're going back to active fund management. And I think passive fund management didn't have such a focus on the corporate actions that are an investment opportunity for the fund manager. I think that is changing. We're seeing much more active portfolios being re-enabled, and we're actually seeing fund managers wanting to know about the corporate actions so they can improve their investment decisions. And that knocks on to people wanting that information earlier and in a pure quality.
So you mentioned T2S Target 2 securities, and at the Swift Nordics conference last week, someone mentioned that T2S was the biggest thing to happen to the securities industry in Europe, ever. But of course, T2S is just a settlements platform. And how is Target 2 securities going to impact corporate actions, and will it in any way? And I'll start with you.
Well, as a matter of fact, T2S is a settlement platform, but a cross-border settlement platform. There is two important things in the definition. Well, first of all, settlement. When you're speaking about corporate actions, you have a settlement to manage in two kinds of things. When you have when you have corporate action on flows, and on the other side, when you have a corporate action on stock, you have a pay date. And of course, you have something to pay at the pay date. And when you pay something, you have, in many times, a delivery of securities or a reception of securities on the opposite legs. So, by essence, corporate actions as settlement. So this is the reason why T2S teams today have two bodies involved in the following of standards in corporate action side. On one side, there is the Harmonization Steering Group, who is supervising another group called the Corporate Actions Subgroup, in charge of implementing specific standards that have been defined by a Corporate Action Joint Working Group. So that's the item.
So how T2S is going to impact corporate actions was also a big talking point at Sibos this year. So how do you view it? How will it be impacted?
If we step back to have a high-level view for 1 minute, so T2S implementation will totally change the way we service assets. So depending on the operating model that the player will choose, so depending on whether you decide to become an issuer CSD or investor CSD or agent or a combination of this, so the operating model and the system development obviously linked to this decision about your strategy will change. So amongst all the points mentioned by Pierre, obviously we will go through a further standardization. So depending on the various provider, we go with a 80-20 rules in terms of automation. So T2S will bring a new wave of automation opportunities just because we will have many markets handling in exactly the same way some items such as corporate action on flows. So because you have harmonization, you have critical mass, potentially there will be an opportunity for automation there.
And I believe the other element that will change, I think we'll have a rationalisation in the CSDs. There's an estimation that we're going to spend 1.4 to 1.5 billion on euros on T2S. That's too much money for everyone. So I'm convinced that the 40 odd CSDs will reduce over the 3 to 5 year period, whether it's going to be 12 or whether it's going to be 20, but it won't be 40 odd.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I wanted to really go back to you, Axel, because I wanted to get more from both Pierre and you, just a little bit deeper detail about the initiatives that are going on at your bank to really improve speed and quality of service in regards to this.
Okay. So for most of the players, the core corporate action or security engine are quite sophisticated just to handle standard mechanism. Today within BNY Mellon, we do have a project just to develop the scrubbing and the notification just to match specific client needs. What does that mean? It means that it involves the review of all the data coming from vendors and providers and the setup of new business rules for notification. Why? We have few clients value speed versus accuracy, and then you will have another set of clients wanting to have the opposite. So we should be able just to try to segment a little bit more the way we want to notify clients. So either you receive speedy notification and it gets more and more accurate, or you will say, I don't want to be totally overflown by all these messages and I'm ready to wait, but to get something a little bit more accurate.
What determines which client wants speed versus accuracy, or are they mutually exclusive?
It will be really the client profile. So if you have a prime broker purchasing and selling the security, they want to know upfront there is a corporate action pending. If you are more pension funds, yes, it's important they know what's happening, but on the other side, they would like to go through all the details of the corporate action, for example.
So I wanted to go into, what are some of the initiatives going on at Société Générale?
Well, we follow the same kind of issue, meaning that we have a core engine in terms of corporate action management to update, but this is not a new trend. What I mean is we take the opportunity of T2S coming and, of course, the corporate action standard implementation to enhance it and to have it with a T2S perspective, meaning that we have to be on one side close to the client and on the other side close to the market. So close to the client means that on one end, what I said before, you have an industrial process, but to be close to the client, you need to have specificity linking to your client, and you have to adapt to customize your offer to the client. So it will mean, for instance, to have right interface for small clients that are not able to follow all the train of rules, regulation, and so on, for instance. And on the other hand, this is also the possibility given to have a segmentation of the offer. What I mean is, if you are looking to T2S, you have settlement on one side. That's a function. If you are looking to corporate action standard, you have a custody function on the other side. And you can imagine, and that's what we are doing, to segment your offer depending on your client. And we have clients today, for instance, in Italy and in France, where they want to manage their settlement, but they don't want to manage the custody side. So we are making the corporate action where they are managing the settlement side. That's a way of adapting our offer, and of course the system has to be enhanced in that topics. The second aspect is to be close to the market, and for us to be close to the market in Europe means to have a local presence or to find the right local presence depending on the segmentation of the client. What I mean is, in some cases, you only need a tax agent locally. I'm speaking in the future, after T2S.
You're unique in knowing the future of
yeah,
T2S.
exactly. And so if you are looking to that, we will fine-tune the function that we need and to find the right provider for this kind of function. And in some countries where we have a branch or a subsidiary, we can have a full set of offer, a full set of services to offer to our clients. But one more time, there is where in the past you have an approach of custody. Tomorrow we will have certainly an approach in a segmented way, meaning what function needs my clients and what function I can offer him.
Okay. So for my next question, I wanted possibly the group to look at it from a global view. So I'm going to sort of look to you to talk about the USA, and Olivier, you to talk about Asia, and look to you to talk about Europe. So really I wanted to look at sort of the link between issuers and the rest of the value chain comes up as one of the most important pain points. You know, is this going to be resolved soon, and are there any sort of interesting initiatives going on? And I'll start with you from the sort of USA perspective.
Okay, so all in all, the interpretation risk is quite important for the industry and for BNY Mellon, so we are working on that for quite a long time. So as you said, there are many initiatives on the US side, so there is today an initiative ongoing between DTC and SWIFT, just to improve the information tagging. So BNY Mellon is one of the pilots with the depository receipt business. The first preliminary results are quite promising in terms of STP, and at least to integrate more automatically the issuer information.
Yeah, so what about from a European perspective?
The opportunity of European markets is to have put in place the corporate action joint working group standard. And in this standard, we are speaking about ISO. ISO standard is totally a new thing for issuer and issuer agent. This is a new thing, so it means that it will not be resolved in the next coming days or in the next coming years. It will take time. However, there are turnaround solution. This solution, for instance, if we take the examples of the easy zone, were very modest a few years ago, meaning that it was just to put a form, a common form that accepts data under an ISO format, and to be shared on the easy zone between Euronext and Euroclear to announce the event. But that was the first step to prepare the following ones. And in these steps, we find some other CSD like six in Switzerland and Monte Titoli in Italy, where you have the ability to have a user interface to input your announcement in the system of the CSD. So it means that you are not under an ISO standard in terms of at the level of the issuer, but the issuer have something to translate it in the ISO standards. And Monte Titoli, for instance, is able to flow this kind of information under an ISO standard message. Euroclear now since 15 days is also able to offer that kind of solution. So there is a sort of move to make the necessary in order to enhance the announcement level, the announcement step of the issuers. But to be honest, for me, there is other steps that are very, very tricky. When we are speaking about the issuer, today the issuer are on the table in France, for instance. They are on the table in some other countries. But there are more tricky issues that are linking to legal issue. Mm-hmm. When you are speaking about the definition of record date in some countries, this is a legal issue. So this is more tricky than the problem of announcement, even if there is a security aspect.
Okay, I want to get the Asia perspective in as well on this.
Well, in Asia is moving quite fast as well at the moment. It's going in the same kind of direction that it is in the US or in Europe, but with a variety of solutions in the same way as in Europe. So you have web portals being created, you have CSDs being or trying to enforce or strongly convince their issuers or local issuers to have an electronic link with them. We see strong progresses in Australia, for instance, in Singapore also. And there are a number of markets moving in that direction, and it's linked to the implementation of ISO 20022 as well in the region. So the market infrastructures wanting or moving towards ISO 20022 are also using this move to connect with their issuers and connect them therefore to the rest of the chain. Okay.
Well, we're running a bit out of time, so the one question I did want to include for everyone, and we'll bring you in as well. I haven't forgot about you. Is sort of the sort of crystal ball question, the future question about where do you see the major changes happening when you look at corporate actions in that sort of 3 to 5 year window? So I'm going to stay with you because you were talking. So where do you see the changes coming in the next 3 to 5 years?
Next 3 to 5 years is not that long ago in time. So if you ask me 15 years, I would be more creative. But we'll see certainly a rise of ISO 20022 standards being used, especially in Asia Pacific, in between the market infrastructures and the direct participants. This will drive automation in this region and will really make a good progress. And I would like to see, like the rest of the industry, a solution to the issuer to CSD connection, a solution for these aspects, be it a collaborative platform or something of this kind. We'll see. But it's moving in the right direction, and I think in 5 years from now, this issue will not be an issue of the past, but it will be partly solved already. So.
Yeah. So where do you see 3 to 5 years? Because it will be post T2S 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, indeed. So for me, there will be two trends. The first one is the regulatory pressure. So regulators will generate some further segmentation in terms of service because the client needs or client requirement could differ from one segment to another one. And so we as global custodians should be able to match these needs. The second trend is T2S or something similar, but we are focusing on T2S right now. This will change as well the rules of the game. So depending on whether you decide to stay as you are or issuer CSD, investor CSD, or agent focusing on custody and not settlement. So this will change completely the rules of the landscape. So within 3 years, 5 years, for sure we are in 2013. The timing for 2017 and 18 is the timeline for T2S. So for sure there it will be a big change. And the third point will be the point mentioned by Olivier, which is really to work on the issuer information to make sure we get rid of the interpretation risk.
Okay.
And to add on what Axel was saying, the competition between CSDs and custodians, or the roles of CSDs and custodians, at least in Europe, will evolve drastically, and it will change the shape of the industry, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah. But where do you see it going?
That's certainly one of the major change. We will have a sort of multi-domestic market with T2S in Europe. Domestic on the settlement side, but multi-domestic on the custodian side. There will be the competition between, of course, current players, but new players, meaning custodians, but custodian versus CSD and CSD versus CSD. So there will be a new playground, a new field a new field to play here.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm going to round off with you as a consultant and observer of the industry, you know. Give us,
Okay.
give us a
I'd probably bring 3 points. The first one is that emerging markets is where the returns are going to be. If we bring that thread, converge it with the fact that fund managers are going active, we're seeing more portfolios than that, it means that they want to take advantage of opportunities in the emerging markets. That means they want to know about corporate actions, they want to know about issues, they want to know about things that will affect the opportunity to either acquire shares or to buy them at a discount or to just have access to them. I believe that would mean that the point was made by Olivier and by Axel. I believe it will be the emerging markets that will provide first this golden copy, because the issuers who provide the information for that golden copy will be prepared to deliver that to a source that can be then shared with others, because they will want the investment from these active fund managers. So I think the 3 threads are active fund management, the fact the emerging markets are going to give you the returns, and the issuers in those returns will want the investment from the active fund managers, is going to mean that's where the drive for this golden copy for corporate actions will come from.
So look to the emerging markets.
Look to the emerging markets.
Excellent. So gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.